Welcome to the Foundation Series, your deep dive into startup compensation with industry leaders from across the startup world. Join me, Matt McFarlane, a people operations leader turned compensation specialist, as we uncover the strategies and practices driving success in tech startups around the world. Hear insights from heads of people, founders, and experts as we explore how to build robust compensation frameworks that not only fuel growth and retention, but do so in the dynamic startup environment that we all know and love. Let's get into it.
100%, man. And then I put the phone voice on and I'll give you the scripted crap. Yeah.
Yeah, you do the hello listeners.
I still do that, man. I still do that. And I'm like 5 years in and I still feel like the first question I ask is always the worst because it's just stiff for some reason. I just turn into something different.
Into it a bit. Yeah, no, I hear. How's your podcast experience been? You've been doing it for obviously much longer than me, but like you still loving it? Like how are you finding it?
Oh, honestly, like when me and Rob first started the Funny Business podcast back in 2020, it was like right at the start of the pandemic where we were just like freaking out just about obviously everything going on. But then it was like, we need to channel this energy into something else where it's like, how do we be productive? You know, I feel like we've stressed enough. Like we don't want to worry twice. It's just like things are going to happen. So what can we control and how can we get creative? And, you know, so we decided like, let's, give ourselves a week to start a podcast. And yeah, Rob's experience working in agile delivery and things like that was kind of our angle at the start. And then that sort of just led to all different things like product managers, athletes, and it was more just around being curious, you know? It was like we meet people, they introduce us to other people, and I don't know, I think it really helped us being behind a screen at that time where, it was real low effort, we could reach a lot of people, and then you start to think, all right, money, and like how do you grow this and turn this into something? And for us, it was never about like media at the start. It was more just around, all right, our consultancy and how do we use the podcast and leverage, the network and connections and trust that we have into our business. And yeah, it was pretty crazy wild times. And like, honestly, I love podcasts, like listening and hearing people's stories. Like there's all different paths to success. So, it's awesome. I don't know what about you, man? Like, how have you found it since you started?
Yeah, I mean, same thing. I think, there's, I haven't had too much of a chance, and I've had the feedback that the in-person podcast is a very different experience. I've done one as a guest, and I found that really interesting. It's just like you said, I think podcasts are such a great way to just sit down and, pick a couple of topics, but just get to understand someone in their background and like, some of the experiences, which I think invariably help us, navigate the same or the shared challenge or something like that. But yeah, I'm keen to one day. I don't know if I can give up living in Pottsville, but I'll have to find a way to, I'll be one of those famous podcasters one day that just shoots around the world and sets up these in-person conversations. Or maybe I'll do the Joe Rogan and people will come to me and I'll set up a ranch or something. I don't know.
Well, Pottsville does sound like a nice place. It sounds like a lot of greenery, scenery, and just like, yeah. How long have you been there for?
I've been here for a year, so I moved from Brisbane, down south. It's very much been an experiment. We leased a place or rent a place here for 12 months. We just hit renew for 12 months. We're going to see, how we go. We're finding the distance is fine. I mean, it's easy to travel. The Gold Coast Airport's just there. Brisbane's easy to get back to, but Kathleen and I don't have clients in Brisbane, and so they're all around Australia already anyway, or the world. And so, I just feel like as terrible as COVID was, it obviously like rapidly moved us toward being able to do these sorts of things from a work or a solopreneur perspective. So that's at least one sort of silver lining, right?
It's a tough one, isn't it? The work from home, because I love it personally, and having that as an option and being treated as an adult, I feel like is awesome. It's like that trust and just be like, yep, you can do your job. And I think it only kind of works at a really good organization though. You know what I mean? Like if things aren't working and then and you can't really see what's going on, then I feel like, yeah, of course, lots of trouble there. But the mix of everything, it's like, how do you balance it? Like with in-person interactive stuff mixed in with online. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always been the battle, hasn't it? Like what?
Yeah. And I was going to say, it's a perfect segue for where I want to start. But, the awkward part of conversations, because I feel like obviously I know you, but I really want others to know you as well as I do. But would you spend a minute just like giving you a bit of your background? Like, I'd love to explore that, and then I can talk about why I've got this non-HR person on the HR podcast.
Yeah, well, my story, I don't know. Every school I went to has eventually been knocked down, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. My first job that's been knocked down, the Jetty Surf, was turned into like a cafe at the Broadie shopping centre there. So I wasn't off to a good start, I'll say. But I think growing up in Jakarta, Broadmeadows, not really knowing what I wanted to do with my life, to be honest. I was just like happy-go-lucky, really loved childhood. And ambition-wise, I was just like, I don't know, I just kind of want to be happy. And now that I think about it now, it's like, oh, that's probably where it lands again today, but it takes a while to get back to that. But yeah, I think like opportunity-wise, I think my life really opened up when I got selected into the CEDA program, Cricket Victoria program, which was the second year it's ever ran. So a cricket school basically. So left school in year 10, didn't tell my parents, like just applied one night at like 11 o'clock at night. And then 7 a.m. the next morning, my mum got a call from the principal just saying, of CEDA, just saying, hey, would love to get locked in for an interview and stuff. And I was like, what, you want to leave school and stuff? And I was so lucky that my parents had just like backed me in, So they were just like, yeah, go do it. Cricket school, Cricket Victoria, go see what it's like. Went there and just met all my best friends from a different side of town kind of thing. So really opened my eyes to kind of what was possible. And that experience, like training at the MCG, just being around people who love sport. And I think, honestly, what shaped me is like the teachers that I had there. Like my first teacher there was a bloke named Ben Waterman, who's now the CEO of the Resilience Project. So someone like him really trying to like take an interest and really show care. And that was like, for me now looking back, it was like, that was the moment, actually having leaders and cool people who we look up to. Like he was playing district cricket and stuff. He was friends with all the big cricketers. So we were all just like, really looked up to him. And yeah, for him to just muck around with us and not take life so serious, like that was so different to school, and it like really felt understood. And then the next year, I had a guy named David Mackay, who's Clint Mackay's brother, an Australian cricketer. And he was cool too in his own way. Like his pathway into teaching was a lot different. I think he allowed us to trust and flexibility, and then, just allowed us to form connections and really grow. Like we were 16, 17 years old. And then the year after that, I had a guy named Mark Worthington, who's now the player development manager at Geelong Cats. And people talk about like the culture and why they've been so good for so long, like having firsthand experience around like how he treated us kids back then. It's like, I understand why now, like people are motivated to do good work and work as a team together. So, and why actually caring about the people is the most important part, like, I don't know. So he does a lot of the outside work where people who like players are in their worst, states that they'll probably ever be in. And he's someone there to really show care. He's got a big family. His whole family takes him in. So I think it's not just like words, it's like actions, and just like experiencing that and just sort of understanding that, you can do things a little bit differently. I then was managing, I was working in like retail at Greg Chappell Cricket Centre and a few different things there. And then moved over to Canada, just applied for a random lifty job there, never seen the snow before. Got an interview.
Classic Australian move, isn't it?
Had no idea. I was just chasing something different. And went over there and just made the best friends from all around the world. And it was like, okay, the world's a big place. Like there's so many things I can do. So I come back here, managed some bars and pubs for like 3 to 4 years. And I was like, I love hospo. I love the regulars and just talking shit and chopping it up and things. And I was like, I could happily do this for the rest of my life. And then kind of get to a point where it's like, I don't know, like what's going on? You're working night shifts, you're getting a bit older. And then actually a big chat with Rob in the car one day around like, what are we going to do? Like, how are we going to like make something of our lives? He was played footy for a bit. His identity was wrapped up in that. And it was more just around what can we do together. And he had the idea to start Obi & Co., which was at the time Australia's first slides company. So we done that for a couple of years, and that was crazy. You know, like we've always sort of been the people who've, you know, tried to build and do things and like creative projects and all the different Instagram handles and stuff like that, you know, like just trying to see what life's about a little bit. And then, yeah, we done that for a bit, got into a few stores, and it was like, hey, this is pretty crazy. Like ecom, we done the whole influencer thing back in 2017, I think it was.
Like you were the influencers, or you worked with influencers?
No. So our whole strategy was the influencer product sort of stuff, because our budget wasn't big back then, you know what I mean? We were just like, everything was shoestring. So set up the ecom store and sent out a bunch of product. And I think the thing that really stands out now, like looking back, is we showed care even back then. I know the handwritten notes, like a lot of people in small businesses do it, but it was really like our sort of tactics and thinking was like hooking up their family and stuff too. You know, where it was like, so you get that full breadth of connection and stuff. So just to like even experimenting with stuff like that and thinking about like growing businesses in that sense was really cool. But then we decided that we didn't want to be shoe salesmen for the rest of our life. So we sold that business on Facebook Marketplace. And then what did we do then? We started up a little agency where we'd go and help like cafes and things like that with social media strategy, photography and things like that. Done that for a little bit, services business, again, just like learning, not really thinking it's the forever thing. And I don't know, it's just like uni and school, I wasn't that passionate, but I think like by actually doing the work and then you find that curiosity, like I was like, I want to learn, I want to do all this homework. This was never me, you know? So it was like this newfound energy, and I think of like what's possible. So we've done a bunch of things, and started the Funny Business podcast and launched a consultancy off the back of that, Ways of Working consultancy, where we won a lot of our clients obviously through the podcast, but like LinkedIn content. So I had a background in recruitment. So on my 28th birthday, I remember going in for an interview, not knowing what recruitment was, and then becoming a recruitment consultant and realizing it's one of the hardest jobs going around. And just the skills I learned there have just been crazy, you know, like people are the best and things happen and you need to navigate hard conversations and it's how you react and things. So I was just, I feel like I've told the longest story ever. I don't know if it's all making sense.
Man, I've written like 50 questions because I think you've had like such an insane journey, clearly. Like, I don't know how else to sum it up, but I'm just thinking of like all of the parallels you've got with like just everything. I mean, I think you said this at the start off the record before we started around how it all comes back to people. And I think that couldn't be more true. And I see this thread woven, you know, so much throughout your story as well. So I'm loving it. I keep going.
Oh man, honestly, I'm just trying to think like, I think everyone's got their own unique pathway. And like, the more they lean into that, like growing up, it's like, I was inspired by people, but I always wanted to be myself, you know? And it's like, what the different types of skill sets, like the Frankenstein of all the things I like, you know? So I think like how to move the needle too is like positive self-talk. Like I cut myself a lot of slack, probably too much, some would say, but you know, life's hard, and doing things are hard. And I think like giving people the benefit of the doubt, being around people who see the world in a positive light, like in a world full of negative, like I think that really helped me.
Yeah, I hear you. There's one thing I want to dive into straight off the bat, which really resonated and I'm curious about. You kind of talked about an example where you were year 10 and you were kind of like, you made this pretty crazy decision, you know, by a lot of standards, but your parents seemed to really back you into it, even though they found out in the moment.
They knew that I wasn't going to private. Like. Yeah. They knew I wasn't going to private school,
they
mate.
Probably wiped the brow. They were like, thank God.
A little bit, man, to be honest. Like I was a C student. I don't know, like I just didn't really connect, but I felt like there were some cool teachers. And I felt like I got along with all the teachers. I never caused a drama and stuff, but I think my parents were just, I think now looking back, it's probably like, oh, he had a bit of drive. Like if he's shown initiative, like that's probably a good thing, you know?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, what was it like being, you know, because these days you ask kids what they want to do and it's, you know, it's YouTube influencer, it's all those sorts of things, which probably seem crazy today. But what was it like for you to, for your parents in the moment to find out, but then for them to still back you into this sort of path?
Yeah, it was weird. Like, I remember my first job that I had, I got it through placement because we had to do it through school. And I wanted to work at the Great Chapel Cricket Centre because I love cricket. And so I just called them up and asked. And they were like, we don't do it ever, but because you called, and everyone else sort of got their careers person to call and just see if there was anything. And it was like, you're the first kid who's actually called themselves. And it was like, yeah, we'll give you a chance. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And I think like those sort of like, it just reaffirms kind of, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, maybe
reward that behavior for you, right?
Do that. Yeah, do that. And then like tell people about it. And I always saw people who took their opportunities, or really saw something, made the most of it, really done well, But I think it all comes down to like, you have to enjoy it too, or have to want it, because faking it's the worst,
Yeah, I hear that. And I think, like, for me, I think, one, the fact that your parents clearly backed you into something that you were, at the time you were really passionate about, but you also gave some really other cool sounding examples of like where leadership at quite a formative age for you, plenty of times when that seemed to pop up throughout the cricket academy and things like that. How do you think that shows up in the workplaces that you're in today, either for yourself or for others?
Yeah, leadership, I don't know. I've never really thought of myself as a leader, even though, in some like sporting teams and stuff, captain and things like that. But I thought leadership was more around not necessarily that hard-nosed, listen to me, I'm at the front. I was always sort of chatting to people one-on-one and revving them up when I thought that they needed a good rev up, and, working with coaches who see that as a strength as well, rather than getting yelled at. And it's like, I think everyone's motivated by different things. So it's like, how do you make sure everyone's on the same page? And I see like work and teams, like I know sport comes up a lot, but it's a perfect example. It doesn't even matter what grade or anything you play. Like, I think like good teams and stuff, you don't always have to be best friends. You're not going to be, like it's just a fact. So it's like, but you got to respect each other, and like know the value that they provide will actually help you get to the end result. Like you need them, and sometimes the best feeling ever is like the people who you don't get along with necessarily, they stick up for you in situations that's what sort of brings the glue together. Like all the best teams I've been a part of have always sort of felt like that. Like it's always like a group of misfits, or, it just feels like a story or a movie. Like I think like, I think like that, and to try and make sense of the world. Like I see movies and storylines, I'm like, oh, it kind of feels like that. Like that's what I want to tap into,
Yeah, I hear you. I think like one of the other things I found really interesting about your background as well is like you've had this kind of stint, or like a large part of it, where you've kind of been in charge of your own, I don't know, path, present, whatever it is you were focused on in terms of like kicking off some of these businesses. I liked in particular that you mentioned that, clearly, study and being studious and things like that weren't really something that were a big part of your life early on. But you mentioned about how that really flipped once you found a thing that you're really passionate about and really like invested in. How do you think companies, or I guess like, do you have that now in the role that you're in now? And like, how do you think companies can be better at like helping their people find that and like finding that kind of like fire to jump into stuff like that, be passionate?
Well, one thing that we were thinking about with our consultancy was actually having someone like that Mark Worthington now, who's the player development manager, who handles everything off field and worries about the people, to really like fill that void for teams in our consultancy, where it's like, no, I want to work with you on your plan, like your personal plan on like how to make things better. And I think that sort of care, the little things, that it's not a campaign, it's not things that you're taking photos of or promoting, it's the actual, that stuff. I think that's what I see like really working and winning just through my experiences and things like. How have you seen it?
Oh, that's a good question. If I think of like when I've been the most motivated and like driven to solve just some real gnarly problems, it's when they are like, when I'm definitely outside of my comfort zone. Like I'm someone, and I would say in my experience, most people I've worked with or been in a team with or led or something like that seem to have this, which is that like if you put a challenge in front of someone and you back them and you let them know they've got it, and if mistakes happen, then, you can come back and fix them and go again or whatever it is. Like 9 times out of 10, I think they're probably going to prove you right and actually like show you that you put your faith in the right place, rather than kind of being over the top about it or being a little bit too controlling or something like that. But I've certainly noticed for myself at the very least, like when I've been at my best is when something is put in front of me that is almost too hard for me to solve, but I know that I've got, someone's got my back to land it.
Oh yeah. And even like, it's just weird when you think about like, I reckon people who have the best teams have probably been burnt the most too, like where they've trusted people and they've given people that freedom, but they've got the best teams. I think that's part of the process is probably that skill, isn't it? Around just like trusting people and trusting your gut. So I think that's how, like, I don't know. I know for me, for a fact, like with working at Sked, like them treating me like an adult, flexible calendars, get the job. I'm like, that is awesome. And how I talk about the company and stuff, like, that's good brand, like it's authentic, 100%. It's true,
Yeah.
So
it's like, why they hired you. They know why you're there. Like, let's be adults about it, right?
Well, that's the best, I think. And I think when people feel seen, like when it's like, yeah, I understand the role that you're playing. Like teams are hard too, like there's people are motivated by different things. How do you direct people in the right direction? And, like there's all these different ways you can do things. And I don't know. I love hearing about all different techniques and ways you can do things. I'm sure you've got like a whole playbook. Hey?
I can't remember. There's some stat floating around about how many like management books there are or leadership books there are in the world, and it's astonishing. I'm sure there's a lot of overlap or duplication or something like that. But it feels like every week there's you just have to be on LinkedIn like we are to see it too, right?
Well, I'm just like, in a world where I don't know too much, I know for a fact that like talking to customers can't be a bad thing, so I'm thinking of things where it's like, I can't predict the future. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know for a fact that if I'm talking to customers or if I'm doing these things, that it can't be a bad thing, like that I know for sure. So it's like, how do I find those little things in the day,
Yeah. And I think my spin on that, on my build is that, I think part of being a leader is seeing your direct reports or, your people as a customer. For part of that is that I think so often, you hear of companies that people are just screaming out with feedback or ways to fix something or improve something. And it kind of, is away with the wind and it just doesn't get listened to.
People don't want to hear it either, I don't think. Like it's hard having hard convos if you're getting your ass chewed by something, you're like, it's not that pleasant. But I think like, doing those hard things, like I know for a fact, like after stuff that I've done that's been super uncomfortable, and I might not have got it right, but I've experienced it. I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I did that because next time, and I think like having that lens of just like doing the hard things first, because I think that's when you get forgiven the most too. It's like if you're just starting something, you might as well do the hardest thing because people are just going to let you keep failing, and the tolerance is like a lot better. So
I think there's something to that as well, right? Like about being upfront when you have mucked it up a bit and, hey guys, this didn't work out. Let's try and do something. And I think there's so rarely a time where a decision or an outcome or something isn't reversible. Where like, we all take a lesson from it, but again, depending on the environment, it doesn't always feel like you have the safety maybe to make those mistakes or say it when you have or something like that. So there's benefits to having that freedom.
Oh, 100%. I think like being clear too, like we can hide behind fluffy stuff. Like I've definitely done it before where I'm just mumbling and bumbling and just reading from a script. And it's like, no, just like, I'd rather you stuff up, but give it to me like a human, And I think like, yeah, HR would be very hard. And I think some of the best people work in that space because they see the value and the good stuff it can do at like really successful places. Like what do you see when you come across things that's like a common pattern of like, yeah, like what things people have done to create that culture and create that like care?
Oh, like in the great workplaces, I think it's that they care as people. I think some part of it is that they just are those humans, like they're just wired that way. But I think there's also, when I first started, becoming a leader or leading people or something like that, I used to reflect a lot on the kinds of leaders that I had and the way they made me feel, and that shaped a lot. Yes, there were the books and things like that and the courses and whatever, but I used to reflect a lot on the way my many and varied leaders made me feel. And I had great leaders, I had bad leaders. Everyone's probably had a spectrum of some variety, but that for me really helped shape how I approached it. And I think you just have to kind of, I don't know, there's a lot. I feel like I took a lot of pressure when I first came into a leadership role around some of those really sort of stupid myths that just continue to exist. They never show emotion, they're always right, they know everything, like all these sorts of things. And I think once you can just let some of that fall away and just realize that we're all people, we're all trying to do a job, and just be a bit more human about it, then I think it just makes the job a lot easier. As hard as it can be, because I think you hold on to a lot of those things. I think my experience as an employee shaped a lot of how it was when I was leading teams, by all means.
Oh, I love that, man. I love that. I just think, communities and seeing groups of people that are, motivated by, getting that end result, there's nothing better. And I think, it's cliche, but, the process, you have to enjoy it, because it's not great if not. I just feel like there's always, there's whinges everywhere. It's just how do you get around people who can get the most out of you,
Yeah, that's it. And I asked the question at the start around, what's a non-HR person doing on a largely HR focused podcast. But I think, for me, part of the reason that I was so keen to get you on, and you touched on a lot of it at the start, was around I think you're doing something that a lot of people that look after the people function in any business, but are really responsible for, which is brand and community. And you touched a little bit earlier on around we're in such a different environment to what we were 5 years ago. I mean, 5 years ago, really remote work, I think the only universal brand remote work had was that it was people were slacking off and they were at home, legs up on the couch. Admittedly, that may have been me a couple of times, but obviously that has totally revolutionized in the past few years. And we've now got this multimodal, whatever you want to call it, environment where people are, either not in the office because they're in a different office nearby, or they're working from home, or they're in a different country. But you've just got these completely different communities of people. I think that job that often a head of people or something like that is charged with is how do we create a really cohesive, culture and community in that. So that's part of the reason why I was keen to bring you on. But I mean, tell me a bit about what those two things mean for you. You've obviously had Cred's experience, doing brand and community for your own businesses, for other businesses now. What role is that playing in your life?
Oh, everything, man. I think it, like we said earlier, it's it all comes down to people. And I think how do you form that connection piece and make people care about what you're doing? It's what are your comms? To me, that's interesting, and just, I'm curious. So I love experimenting and just playing and learning in that space. So naturally for me, it's just I love working with people, I don't have many good ideas. I just hang around a lot of people who have good ones, and then I can just piggyback off all their thinking and add my lens and stuff to it. But I honestly believe my role at Sked, it started off as a content manager, and now it's morphed into a community content manager, really, because it's yes, we can pump out stuff and do stuff, but for who, why, So really creating that moat around a group of people who care about what we're doing, and as things shift, they'll still care. It doesn't matter what the product or what the service is. It's just how do you create that group of people who care about the same things and feel supported and connected. That's why I started the Scene Slack group. It's a global Slack group where people can connect and swap stories and just actually connect with cool people, because I think it's about the environment that you create. One thing that I always felt in the startup space is everything felt like a stiff, boring, as a recruiter going to all these events where they just go on about code, and I'm just I don't care, is this boring? And how do we make things a bit more accessible for people who might not be in this space but are interested? So I think just thinking back now, it's like, all right, well, we created a different environment. We made it feel more like you're going to the pub or a nightclub with all these cool people, and it doesn't have to be stiff and boring. It can be fun and different, and just sort of like creating your own sort of lane. So I think like always thinking originally around like, what can you do that's a bit different? Like, what's your perspective? What's your voice? And then how can you shape and build content around that where it educates people, it makes them laugh, they can like all that type of stuff. It's like really find out what I'm learning lately is like the more you know, like it's all obvious stuff, but it's just like the more you know about someone, the more niche you can really go down, you can really speak to them, and seeing those results has been awesome lately. So just honestly, like just being curious about how people behave and move and why they care about stuff. And I don't know, I think like you were saying, I don't think you can fake it. I think that sort of stuff comes naturally, and you can develop those things. Like I felt like I've developed them. I didn't think I was like naturally grew up like that, but this newfound passion has sort of led me on a just different path, you know?
Yeah, I hear you. So what you're saying is like the authenticity side of it is obviously important because people see through it. How do you think, I'm thinking of this from like an employer branding context. So like, we in the people space for us are trying to help our company attract the best people we can to build a great product or service or whatever it is and really be successful. When we're trying to attract those people, what do you think are some ways you've used in the past to really get to the core of what it is about a company's brand that it can be that differentiated, that maybe isn't that kind of like, generic, boring sort of brand, but actually does speak to the kinds of people they want to bring into the company?
I think it's about being proud about where you work. Like I think you can tell like when people are just like that feels like they're part of their identity, like the where they work and stuff, they pump it out and they're like, that's the coolest shit I think I can do. Like I feel like that shows with that. And I think teams who can allow that trust and flexibility, like I think like if starting from scratch, you like find these people in the audience to build that content around like what you want to create, and how do you attract those people? It's like seeing people who are proud of where they work, and they're on LinkedIn, they're saying, we just dropped this thing, we're bloody pumped, and it's not like, it doesn't feel like it's just been ticked off the box, and I think that's when you can really, like for me, that's what attracts me to other places. Like I'll look on LinkedIn, I'll see the people who work there, I'll see where they've worked before, and you can sort of suss the vibe and see what they're trying to create, and it's like, okay, you're piecing together like the dots, and not everyone has to be on LinkedIn and stuff as well. It's sometimes cool when it's not, it feels a bit mysterious or a bit different. And I just think, and the type of characters too, not necessarily always experience. I think bringing people from different fields mixed in with experienced people really probably drives the most innovation. And I think like what attracts people is just observing that, like smart people are just watching what people are doing. So you naturally get cool, you know what I mean? I think anyway.
Definitely. No, I think it does. I think you're right. Like this brand core exists. You just got to know the right people to ask that are in your team, right? So it's picking the people that are super passionate, who are showing up to work and are really driven about it, and finding the language they use. How do they describe it? How can you use them to showcase that to your ideal talent? What are the channels? If LinkedIn is the right one, I'm sure there's been some real novel ones. I can't think of any right now, but I'm sure, there's some great alternatives to LinkedIn. I'm sure there's some dens on TikTok or something like that are doing cool stuff, no doubt. And no, I hear you. I think you nailed it. And talk to me about like one of the things you said earlier that I want to go back to is like the power of the niche. And like, I see often, and I mean, I've worked for a lot of different industries, but the most egregious one I remember seeing was when I worked for a law firm, and they had on their careers page, they had like, it was like, there's classic stock images where it's like a person from every race with, everyone's got a different, whether it's a different disability or something like that. We're just trying to have everyone represented in one picture, and they're all shaking hands or high-fiving or something super, super cliched. But tell me, like, how does the niche work? Because I think a lot of, in my experience, and I've only felt like I've fallen into marketing the past 2 years as I've started my own company, but weirdly the niche works in the sense that the less generic you are, the more you appeal like more strongly. It's just been my experience. But yeah, I'm keen to hear from you. Like, how has it worked for you? How do you find it? How do you use it?
I think language, like what you were saying, it's like things that you would drop in conversations and stuff like that. So I think the best brands just truly understand the language really well, and where to sink that in. Because I know when I get sold to, it feels like, hang on, have they been reading in my thoughts, like on like, how do they know this? You know, so, but that's probably something that I've learned recently, to be honest. Like, when everyone told us to niche down with funny business, we wanted to stay broad, but our thinking was like, yeah, we don't want to box ourselves into we're just curious people. So it was like, that was conflicting for a long time for me, because I was like, no, I think I'm not putting anything off the table, you know what I mean? But I think in comms, especially in marketing and advertising and stuff, I think you need to think about it from that lens, but probably just applying it to differently in different contexts, I suppose. Did
you end up niching down with your podcast, with that brand?
Nah, so we just ended up staying real broad, and that's what because to us, success was meeting these people. It wasn't downloads or numbers and things like that. It was just being able to connect, and that was our thinking around that in terms of, what success looks like. But in terms of like with Sked Social and just really nailing our audience and really understanding who are the people who use our product and who need our product, and how do we talk exactly like them. So we've recently changed all that sort of stuff now. So if you see ads pop up with Sked Social, just know that we're trying real hard to talk exactly like you. So I just think, going back to everything, I really think like language is probably the most important part, I'd say.
And what do you think would be, like, I guess in terms of how people get to the point where they know what language to use, where, if niching is right for them, and, how it may maybe make their efforts to brand their careers and opportunities more impactfully, how do you think that, what are some ways you've seen work well in terms of trying to do that in the past?
Just like doing things differently. Like when I was looking for jobs, I wouldn't have like a usual resume. I had like a link tree and told like a story in a different way, and it's just different ways you can stand out. But that's me, my natural personality, you know what I mean? So that just.
What about from an employer side? Do you think there's ways in which, or do you think there's a need? Do you think there's value in like trying to niche down to like a particular like type of person they're trying to hire or something like that?
100%. Like for us, how we hired and found a lot of our talent was the language that we used in our posts, like the way how we, like our attitude. Like we had some really good people work for our consultants, like the best top engineers, and like I'm posting stuff, choking Rob saying you can't call HR when you are HR, and for a lot of that, people are going, that is wild, that's crazy, but it won us contracts like Twitter and things, so that sort of signaling, and then all the opportunities that come through were people knew how to speak to us because we made it like everything that we put out there is very consistent, and then people can know that they can, hey, what the fuck's up? Or, you know what I mean? They can be real casual with us, and we love that. So it's like, we want to attract those types of people, and it's not necessarily always the experience. It's more around like the values and the attitude and, maybe the coachability, and just around like, I feel like they'd be good team players. They see, like they can see things from other people's perspectives, and I don't know, we didn't want stiff, boring people working for us. So it was almost like, let's put stuff out there that's going to put all these people off,
Yeah, I hear you. So basically, it's customer intimacy, right? Like it's really deeply understanding them and the problems they're facing and the interests they have, the language they're using, those sorts of things, and kind of aligning that brand towards those things to be more compelling.
And it helps when, like, if you're marketing to you know what I mean? Like if you're building something and you're part of a team that the demographic is you, then obviously like it's a lot easier to draw on your own insights, and most likely you have friends who are in that sort of space. So, I think that can be a lot easier, but then you probably overanalyze it too. Like when you have so many options, or you know how things are done, sometimes that's not the best thing. It's good when people come in and have a real fresh, naive view on stuff and just maybe shake things up in that sense. But yeah, with the world the way it is at the moment, like I feel like people think startups are not safe and stuff, but there's corporates that aren't safe. There's all there, like, no, so you might as well just like chase what you're actually into if you can. And I just think like everyone's in different positions and got different responsibilities. So, you've got to play your game, but yeah, I just think like been no better time to actually like follow what you actually want to do.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, obviously I'm 2 years into doing my own thing as well, so I'm clearly an advocate for it, but I do generally feel like there's a bit of a trend towards people, finding ways to do that, whether it's, on top of a job or instead of a job or something like that. I think the time's never been better.
Joining a sick team, being a part of something, like I get jealous of when I see people like going through a stage of the company of growth where they've achieved something. Like that's so cool. And I think these days people are so quick to just like career hop and not really sit. And I can see like the trust that, with jobs getting lost and stuff. But I feel like when you find something good, it's worth hanging on and like seeing projects and stuff out rather than sort of just move on to the next thing,
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's funny because I'm a big fan of that. Like you're in that saying, you're either earning or you're learning. And, personally, ironically, because, I obviously come from a background where you try to hold on to people as much as possible, but I'm a real big advocate of people changing companies when it's right, I think.
Yeah.
But it's also because, I've seen how much it can reward you from a salary perspective. And I also, obviously I look at salaries all day, every day, and I know they aren't growing and, very quickly at the moment. So I think a lot about how people can benefit their own circumstances by just, I was going to say simply changing employers. Obviously that's not a simple thing, but you're right there. There is, there's the flip side of that, which is that sometimes it pays to be at a great place with an incredible team with, interesting work that's helping you grow professionally and you're doing cool stuff and you get to talk about it. Like that's a reward as well. Just maybe isn't a financial one.
Oh yeah. And like, honestly, I reckon some of the best jobs I've ever had, the best job I ever had was being a lifty over in Canada. And that was $10 an hour, so it's all like relative to your life, and what you think is success. Like a peaceful life doing good work is success. And like I think like I've got mates who just like going to work, clocking in, and I've got mates who care way too much about everything and want to go above and beyond, and they're worried about all these other things that aren't even anything to do with them, but they want the company to do well. So it's like that must be just insane in the bigger companies, because it's just like, how do you align all these people? Like there must be the tactics there. I feel, yeah, that must be interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everyone's got their own story, haven't they?
Oh, exactly.
You've got like, again, like I keep coming back to this, like you just got this like such a diverse journey and experience, being a lifty, the cricket academy, like running your own business now, like content and community manager. And what are some of the lessons you take from that into what I guess have each been unique communities in and of their own? What do you take from that to the community world that you have today?
I just think it's a mix of all the stuff, but at the end of the day, one thing I've learnt recently is like communication is probably the most important thing, and I think when bad things happen, it's a really good opportunity to flip things around. Like from my hospitality days, it was like when there was something really bad happen, you can go above and beyond and just flip that experience, and the magic of having something bad happen and being able to turn it into a positive, like, like seeing that.
Do you have a big memory there that you are?
Yeah. So working at the Moonee Valley Legends bar, we had someone, it was a big birthday party. They were being a bit difficult, so I could understand why they were a bit angry, but they were just sort of dropping the plates on the table and things like that. Not really asking, because no one was really putting their hand up and that, and they ended up complaining and stuff. And it was more not just going in there and just giving them a voucher and that, it was actually going to speak to them and just explaining things real clearly. Like, this person just had some bad news this morning. We're very sorry about that. It's not an excuse. I just want to let you know that that's happened. We're going to make sure everything's going to be all right. No stress. Like, we're very sorry about that. And then they end up becoming regulars and members, and it's just because they were like, oh, that was so good. Like, you weren't angry and things like that. And for me, I think that was probably the first time that I've sort of done that, and that just reaffirmed, like, okay, like so when bad things are happening now, it's more like, all right, there's an opportunity here. And even like doing the stuff with customer calls, like I'm doing a bunch of clarity calls at the moment with customers, so going through every single customer and talking to them. And obviously not all of them are going to be 10 out of 10. So it's like, how do you navigate those situations? And at the end of all of them, good, bad, otherwise, they were just like, it's so good to actually talk to someone and they actually listen to me and understand. And it was like, yeah, like I'm not scared to, you can vent. Like, that's what we want to know. You know what I mean? Like, yes, we love hearing the good stuff, but the bad stuff is what makes us going to improve. And people just push that aside, procrastinate. And it's like, nah, like do the dirty work like that. And I just believe like, yeah, just being aware, you can change stuff up. You can make things better, you know, rather than just sit there.
Yeah, I hear you. The example that came to mind for me is, you know, sadly, the too few companies that I've worked in, but they've done an incredible job on the transparency side of things. And I think their ability to be really upfront and own when, you know, results or something aren't going the way that we'd hoped, and just to be able to put it out there and to say, look, you know, we thought this was going to work, and, you know, here's why we don't think it worked, and here's what we're going to, you know, do as a team. And I think in particular, if you can via feedback, like you're talking about on your customer calls, it just builds so much respect, you know, in the community, which is what every company ultimately is, you know, for being real about it.
I feel like it's the founder lens. Like if you've got that founder mindset around, if this was my company, I want to know fucking everything. You know what I mean? Like, rather than just think of yourself as I'm just another number or a member of the team, it's like, nah.
100%, right? Yeah, and you know, it's so often in startups, you know, employees have equity or the ability to buy it, so they kind of are owners in a way, and you really want to foster that mindset. I know I talk a lot with companies around equity, and it's, you know, so often the communication side of things and how they treat people and how they talk about it is why it is either successful or a failure. It's because people don't believe in it, and, you know, then it's kind of just this expensive thing you've given them that costs you a lot of money as a company, but doesn't actually incentivize them.
Oh, exactly, man. And just like little things like sending cameos from celebrities for people's birthdays, and like if you know, just like doing different things where it shows that you actually care in a fun way about your people. Like I know for a fact, like the best workplace is when nobody wants to leave. You know, they get a promotion or they get another opportunity that's like double their wage, they have to go. But like those places where they're like, I don't want to go, or they always come back. And I always felt like with the bars and stuff, it was like the people who used to work there that still come back, and still, like, that's the community. Like that, how do you do that for businesses and services and things like that? Like, how do you flip that? So yeah, and I just think like through the Funny Business podcast, like the common theme with all guests was like, none of the people who've got to where they wanted to did not do the dirty work. You know, like they're customer obsessed, like psycho obsessed. And it was like, okay, that has to be a good thing. If all these people who have done a really good job in their industry or super successful, they're all super customer focused. They're always looking at support tickets, and probably customer success's worst nightmare because they're just literally psycho about that. But I don't know. I think like when you can flip it and see good things happen, I think that's what motivates you, doesn't it? Like, it makes you want to get out of bed. Like,
yeah, I think you're right? Like, I think people know that this stuff inherently works. I mean, it's not always easy to tie, you know, cause and effect to perfectly, but you're right. Like, I think I'm sure most people have that workplace they reflect on where they're just like, it wasn't what I got paid, or it wasn't, you know, it was the environment, it was a community of the people and things like that made me really want to stay, and made it a really hard place to leave if they eventually did. And I think you hit on like one of the key things, which is that what makes a great community is definitely that ability to like own issues, to be upfront, to be transparent to whatever degree you can be around what's going on, and like just show your true intention around things is a really important one. I'm curious, like, what are your thoughts are? Because I think you would probably face a lot of similar challenges to what like a modern workplace does when they've got people everywhere, online, offline, you know, next to each other, whatever. How do you think about that from some of the communities that you've worked with? Because I'd imagine you'd have very similar things, right? Like you get people together, you're obviously trying to foster an online community. There's, you know, different channels for social media. How do you think about that?
yeah, just like in ways how you can surprise and delight. Like we knew people just want a connection, you know, especially in the founder space through the podcast. So we started Dream Big Social Club because we knew like we didn't want the opportunities felt like us, where we like, no, we want the opportunities to feel like the people, you know? So we done like private online events where we'd have masterclasses and people come in and talk directly to the community, and they can have question and answer and stuff. It's kind of like all that things that people would do with Patreon, and then launch like pop-up coffee shops and things where we just come meet, come hang out, different cities and things like that. And then the best thing for me and what I want to see is like people meet there, catch up, and then they're all hanging out and doing their own thing. You know, like it's kind of the environment where things are formed, you know? So it was like, what role do we want to play, and how can we create that environment in a low key way? Like pick a cool coffee shop once a month and just have people just roll in, crew, you know what I mean? There's no agenda. We're not getting up and talking. You know, there's no panel or anything like that. It's just literally have a coffee. I want to introduce you to this person, because that's the one thing with the pod is just like connecting different people who would not normally connect, you know, and but knowing it's like, you know, setting up a mate, you know, that this person will work with this person, or you like thinking like that. And it's like, I love that. It's connecting people who don't normally would just, you know, be in each other's world. So yeah, I don't know. I just think, yeah, people's really important.
I mean, I love the surprise and delight. I'm curious. I'll ask you afterwards in a second, like what you think the sort of like top one or two, you know, examples that have been in your career so far. But I'm curious around like, because there's tools like, you know, there's Slack plugins, there's all these sorts of things that kind of automate it. But what do you think there's more value in doing that in a personal sense?
I think the worst shit ever is automated tools for people. Like all that. I don't believe in that. Like to my core, like I know that people do all this, type this comment to get this, and like, oh, I don't know. Just for me, it's just nah. Like I see the strength and the magic in actually taking the time to look at something. So on LinkedIn, a whole part of my recruitment strategy was obviously connect with people. How do you build that trust, show opportunity, be clear, whatever that is, you know what I mean? So I was like really mixing around with like messaging and stuff like that. So I found the key to all that sort of stuff wasn't posting. It wasn't any of that. It was building relationships through DMs and talking to people and just getting around. So like starting from scratch, didn't know anyone. It's like, well, how do you get involved? It's like find people that are cool and you're interested in, like yourself, and then get around their stuff, like, and just be there, be consistent. Like so many people just drop and fade, but it's weird because I spend a lot of my time on LinkedIn talking to people, and people might be like, oh, is that a waste of time? I'm like, no, not in my eyes. It's like, I know, so like, I feel like I know my listeners, you know, like I feel like I know each one. I know what they do. I know what they like. It feels like deeply personal. And I always felt like bands and things like that, try and maybe separate a lot of themselves and trying to be cool and not do the comment back and thing, where I've always been the opposite. I'll follow people back. I'll do all that sort of stuff. I don't sort of care what the vanity sort of things look like. I'd rather the feeling of something. Like,
yeah,
you know,
the results speak for themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not sort of necessarily following the trends of like, trying to look cool or be cool. It's just like how I actually feel and what I think, and just put it out there and not think too much. Because I think for me personally, like if I think too much, it's probably not good. You know, it's just sort of, sort of get it out there, you know.
Especially not in summer, we'll overheat. Yeah.
Oh, mate, exactly.
So, okay, so I'm hearing you, it's like try not to automate, or try to think, you know, how to scale away the human element of relationship building and things like that.
Yeah, like I look at people's profiles, I look at their experience, I try and piece together a bit of a story around like, so when I connect with people, I send them a message that feels personal rather than, you know, like, hey, I checked out your stuff, and things that, yeah, like just do things a little bit differently. Like I'll message and just be like, one, nice to meet you. Two, what does this word mean in the post that they've done, or something like that, where I've looked and I've genuinely, you know what I mean? It's just like, oh, I'll reply back to that. Like that seems like someone who's, you know, taking a bit more of an interest in the surface level, or trying to get me to do something really quickly. So, yeah, it's interesting. I just think like, yeah, social selling and all that type of stuff is super important, because like people buy from people at the end of the day. And when you're hiring the people, that's probably the most important job, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right. Like it's so easy to get caught up in the like, I don't know, the sort of robotic sounding messages that you feel like you might have to send. But actually, when you put it that way, it's like remarkably simple to kind of break the mold a little bit and be different, be human, and you know, be personal about it.
Yeah, and do less. Like I always thought like numbers, like just pump it out and you know, they're eventually, and that's true, but I feel like you burn a lot of connections that could have been really cool if you just played it a bit easier, you know what I mean? Like, and genuinely interested, like not just blasting, it's more just around, no, this person seems like a vibe, you know, like I want my connections to all be a vibe, you know, I want it to be like super quality, or, you know, like, I don't know, that's just how I sort of see things. And yeah, treat it pretty seriously, I reckon, LinkedIn, which is, I don't know if that's sad or good or
It depends on the day of the week, I think.
oh, exactly.
All right, man, I want to bring this home, but I'm keen to close down on something that I wanted to ask from your point before around surprise and delight. With maybe your, you know, with the context of like how it might work inside a company, what are some of the, you know, the one or two things that you've used in the past that were just like, they were winners? They just did a really great job at just forming connection for people, for you.
I think one thing that we wanted to do for our, when we had the consultancy was like, we had the podcast and access to different people and friendships. So having Peter Bowl like come in and deliver like a leadership workshop off the cuff to people in our, you know, who were clients of ours, like stuff like that we could do that other people couldn't do, that felt a bit personal and things like that. That was a good one.
And so this is exclusive for the community, was it?
Yeah, for our people in our audience. We were just like having a business podcast. We were lucky enough that people who we had on, they'd send us a lot of stuff, and it was like, all right, that's cool, but like, how can we just give this all back to the community, you know? So, you know, we were giving away something every week, I think it was, like surfboards, screens. It was fucking wild. So it was like that type of stuff where it was just like stuff that you didn't have to do, and then it's like, bam, like we've got some fun different things that we can activate. But yeah, I think it's just about like leveraging what you've got. You know, everyone's unique and everyone's got something to work with. It's just like finding out what it is and how you can sort of flex it and do some fun stuff, because work and life is very hard and boring and difficult a lot of the time. So it's like, how can you break it up and have a bit of fun and like, you know, like have people like care and engage with what you're doing. And yeah, I've always sort of been attracted to the people who do things a little bit differently. So yeah, I kind of try and take that on board with everything that I do, whether that's good or bad or anything, I don't know. I feel like it'd be way worse if I tried to do it another way, you know?
Well, mate, it's clearly working. And yeah, I mean, if it gets you hitting the textbooks and working out ways to do it better, then it's a great driver, clearly.
Yeah, 100%, man, 100%.
Mate, I appreciate you so much jumping on, especially the random reach out and will you come and talk to me about brand and community. So thank you a bunch for being a part of it.
I just hope there's something in there for at least one listener. But no, I appreciate you having us on. Like, honestly, love the work that you do. Appreciate the hustle and respect everything that you do. So, yeah, if you want to hit me up after this, I'm on LinkedIn, obviously every day, all day. Just slide into the DMs. But yeah, mate, honour. Thank you so much. And yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us on another edition of the Foundation Series. Make sure to head over to our website to subscribe to the Foundation Series for monthly editions featuring future interviews on startup compensation. In each edition, we'll explore the different strategies, trends, and challenges faced by startups around the world. If you have a burning topic you'd like me to cover or a standout guest that you want to hear from, drop me an email so I can dive deeper into the compensation topics that matter most to you. Join me next time as we continue to uncover the strategies and practices driving success in global tech startups around the world. Thanks for listening.